These are young, lovely people I personally knew and loved. Many of us have lost loved ones.
You should know there is a tight ring of security around a mall in Nairobi this hour. Kenyan troops have it under siege. Inside are Somali militants and an unknown number of hostages. It started yesterday when members of Al-Shabaab stormed the mall. They killed at least 59 people. The militant group is fighting to get Kenyan and other African troops out of Somalia. And we know 2 Canadians are among the dead. Only one has been identified so far. She worked at the High Commission in Nairobi. The mall's attackers, Al-Shabaab, have close ties to Al-Qaeda and have launched previous attacks in Kenya. John Northcott has the latest on the 2 Canadians who were killed in this attack. Joins us now. So, John, at this stage, what do we know about these 2 Canadians?
Well, we know the most. In fact, we know everything about Anne-Marie Deloge, the second Canadian, pending notification of next of kin. There has been no name released in that case by government officials. But we can tell you about Deloge is that she was 29 years old. She had been involved in the Canadian Foreign Service for the last 5 years. She had been in India previously. She was posted to Nairobi 2 years ago, and we understand from a friend that she saw it as a good career move, and she was passionate about her work. A determined person is how she was described. The news of her death is being dealt with by Canadian officials, including Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Canadian staff at our mission are offering Kenyan authorities every possible assistance to bring the perpetrators of this heinous attack to justice. Also, Foreign Affairs Minister John Baird speaking last night at an event for Conservatives gathering in London, Ontario. Let's hear what he said.
That people could be gunned down in broad daylight in a shopping mall on a weekend is just a tremendous tragedy. And obviously, when you have someone who's serving their country abroad, it's quite devastating to the department.
Also, reaction from Foreign Affairs critic Paul Dewar from the NDP saying this: the loss of diplomat Anne-Marie Deloge reminds us of the perils faced every day by Canadian diplomats who serve courageously around the world. This is someone who worked in the office there, dealing specifically with Canadian Border Services and passport fraud. And this is in part because the Canadian Embassy, or as they refer to it as the High Commission in that country in Nairobi, was involved with 5 other countries in the region as well. So a lot of passports and some potential fraud that she was keeping an eye on. Nancy?
Well, John Baird's comments certainly resonate. Canada's Foreign Service workers often considered a pretty tight-knit community, even a close-knit family. So what are Deloge's colleagues saying about her?
Yeah, we're starting to hear so many expressing a loss, and in particular from the president of the Staff Association saying this, tweeting this out this morning: Canada's Foreign Service grieves the loss of one of our own, Anne-Marie Deloge. Deepest sympathies to Robert, that is her husband, who we understand was with her in the mall and may have been wounded in that incident. Deepest sympathies to Robert and family. We understand, though, that there is a larger, more extensive statement coming from the Staff Association, and we're waiting for that this morning. Nancy?
Very much for the update.
Okay.
So that is the latest on the Canadian victims of the shopping mall shooting in Kenya. Right now, we want to take you to Nairobi. James Rennell is a freelance reporter based in Kenya, and he joins us now by Skype from Nairobi. So, James, Kenya's president has just addressed the nation, fielding questions now as we speak. What is his message at this stage on the hostage crisis?
Well, the key message from Uhuru Kenyatta as he was speaking to journalists and TV cameras outside State House in the capital, Nairobi, is a message of unity against adversity. One of the key points that he made is that Kenya is a multi-ethnic, multicultural and multi-religious country. And what he was talking about there is the fact that the terrorist group which is responsible for the attacks are predominantly Muslim and Islamists, and Kenya is, of course, a Christian majority country, and obviously these kind of incidents provoke some kind of racial tensions within the country. The president also spoke of the number of victims, which is 59 dead at the moment, 175 injured, and maybe more than 1,000 that have been freed and released from the Westgate shopping mall, which is only a few miles away from where the president was speaking. And of course, as he was speaking, the siege does go on. Kenyan commandos are outside the shopping centre. They've got the terrorists pinned down to a small area with an unknown number of hostages still being held inside that mall.
Now, I know the president said this is not Kenya's war, it is the international community's war. But the fact is, this is not the first time Somali militants have gone after targets in Kenya. What is al-Shabaab actually trying to accomplish?
Al-Shabaab's key goal is to topple a UN-backed government in Mogadishu. They've been fighting this war for a number of years, 6 or 7 as an official organization, and maybe even longer before that. Over recent years, there have been international forces, Kenyans, Ugandans, and a number of others, that are trying to defeat al-Shabaab and bolster that government. Kenya joined the fight in the end of 2011, and since then, al-Shabaab has promised to wreak havoc in Kenya as retribution for their involvement in a war in what they consider a foreign country. They've launched grenade and gun attacks on churches, mosques, and public transport across different parts of Kenya, but these have been far, far smaller than the attack we've seen over these past 30 hours.
James, appreciate the update. Thanks very much for this. That's James Rennell in Nairobi.